Hi everybody, welcome to part 8 of the Trumpeter Panzer IV tank build. As I said last time, we're going to start working up and we're going to start working on the turret this time. Hopefully, well certainly by the end of this video we'll have this all together. We'll have built all these parts and assembled the fighting part of the tank, or what a tank's meant to do, and that's to carry this gun around. Well, right, where are we up to with it? Well, I've gone ahead and built a few parts, built a few of the sub-assemblies, and one of the things on this turret is the access doors, the side access doors for the loader and gunner and such, and we can do the same. I haven't glued them on yet, as they're falling off on the back as well. I haven't glued them on yet. Come and have a look. Because you can see here that we've done the same as, you remember what we did with the access hatches on the front armour of the hull. We've actually made the hinges so that the door can be opened and closed in situ. It's up to you if you want to do that. Just the same process of drilling through the hinges with a drill appropriate to the size of whatever brass rod you've got about. In this case, like before, I've used a 1mm brass rod because that's what I had. And then once they're stuck in situ like that, they should be sort of a functioning door. Granted, we're not going to open and close them all the time, but that's the general idea. As for the colours of the doors, I've done a little bit of research, and there's lots of sort of talkings about what colours there are on the inside of these doors, from the base primer colour to the finished camouflage colours to white, which is on the same as the hull. The interior, I haven't actually painted this yet, by the way, it's just been primed and ready to do that. I think that if they were painted white, once the doors were opened, the crew were taking a break or letting some fresher air in, they'd become a cracking target for any of the opposition. So I would sure that if I was a tank commander or a member of this tank crew, I'd be finding some way to tone the colours down. So I'll be doing them in the Dunkelgelb, I think, just the basic primer base coat as the tank's been painted. Anyway, moving on. What else have we got to do? What else are we going to look at? We're going to look at building the gun and putting the tank mantle on. Sorry, that's the barrel. There's the tank mantle. That's going to go on there like that. Now then, I did do a little bit of a test fit, and I was a little bit concerned because a small problem occurred to me. A little bit like, you may remember when we did the machine gun in the front armour of the hull. Well, when this goes in here, and the barrel, which we're going to use the metal barrel, when that goes in there like that, we have a problem where the barrel will always is heavier than the breech, so we'll always have a drooping barrel. However, I hadn't really read the instructions further forward, and there is a little bit more assembly to be done. Whereas this goes in here like this, it's part of the breech control, it's part of the breech slide, and I think as the breech, I'm trying to keep it in the shot for you, I think it's as the breech slides back along there, that goes in there like that. Now onto this is built, there's a small cog in here, and that's free to turn. If you don't glue the pin that goes through the middle, that's free to turn, and that sits very tightly in there. Trying to get it in, and then the cog works its way down, and hopefully when everything's ready and all tightened up, we will have a self-supporting gun. So the mantlet has got to go on next. Now then, don't fit the end of the gun before you fit the mantlet, because it won't go in that way, it will only go in that way. So if you put the end of the gun on there, it's not going to work. Alright, now then, there's a few things I need to do. I'm going to go and give it a paint. I'm going to prime some of these parts. All of it's going to be the what number was it? I can't remember now. All of the inside I've been doing in the Mr. Hobby H21 off-white, so that's going to be done. It'll match the inside of the rest of the tank, and then we'll look at sort of weathering it up and getting it ready to all put together. Right, I'll go and get some paint put on this, let it all dry off, and I'll see you in a moment. Okay then, here we are. We're going to put some of these parts together. We're just going to work on the gun at the moment and the breech, and put it together so that you can see how the gun itself actually holds itself in position rather than wobbling around freely. I've gone and painted some of the parts that are going to go into the breech and the loaders area. What I've done with this, I've already taken. Come on, have a look again. What I've done with this, I've taken the opportunity to glue the breech itself onto the gun mantlet, or the interior of the gun mantlet. I've painted the breech ring, which is this little bit here, in I think I've done that in a Humbrol, polished steel. That's this one here. And then once it's dried, give it a bit of a polish up, and it really does look quite effective. The breech block itself is a separate part that sits inside the breech and slides in like that, and for that I've actually used a polished aluminium, because these parts, these moving parts as they call them, are quite highly polished. They're looked after by the crews, and they're nice. They're always nice, clean and shiny, and that will look pretty good in there. Just one thing while we're on about the breech at the moment, I just thought it might be an idea that when it's built, we could even lay around in the breech itself, or maybe even pushed home, ready for the breech to close down, the breech block to close down, and fire off the round. However, what I did find is, here's one round. We're about to load into the breech, goes part way in, and then it jams. It will go in if there's a little bit of force put onto it. I think what's happened is that there's just probably the thickness, like most of the parts that have been in this build. I think it's just all down to the thickness of the paint, both on the round and the breech itself. However, so I'm not going to get it stuck. I'll just push it back out and leave it like that. Right, so how do these parts go together? There's a couple of locating lugs for the parts, and they do fit together quite easily. Just trying to get you to see it without blocking it with my hands. They do go together quite well, and it's just really a matter of following the instructions on the build. Okay, here we go. Let's put these together. You will see I have spray painted them and the interior of the turret top as well in the off-white colour, and then what I'll do is go along later on and weather them all up, but let's get this together first. This bit here is quite a tight fit. It'll only go one way around because of the position of the locating lugs. However, I do think that we will need some glue just to stop it moving around, because this will take the movement of the barrel, the gun itself. Getting near the bottom of my bottle of glue now, so I just have to shake it around so I can get enough glue on the brush. Right, that's that side in. Then we're going to look at building in some of the other parts of the, I think it's more of a loader's safety cage, just so that when the gun recoils back, it slides along these rails, just slides back along these rails in here, and it keeps people out of harm's way. There's cracking detail on the inside of this turret. Just going a bit quiet here while I'm concentrating and building things in. Once again, this piece on the back here will only go one way around because there's two locating lugs on the one side of it to go in there. Just touch these up with a bit of glue. It's really coming together now. There's I think we're on the homeward stretch for this build. Once we get the gun in into the turret, which piece is now? I'll just have a look at the instructions. Right, this bit here is the little bit that I spoke about before, about where the there's a small cog on there that matches into the gears on there, and the way to get this done is to put that in with the breech down, and then just roll it up, and it should hold the gun in place. So put some glue into here to hold this part in. Although I have painted it, where the parts meet, I always like to go along and scratch some of the paint off back down to the bare plastic, just to make sure that the glue really does have a hold, and we can get a nice bond plastic to plastic. Same for the other side. You can already see how the cog is holding the breech up. Before it was all floppy, moving around, very similar to how we had the problem of the machine gun in that gimbal in the front armour. So what we've got to do now is insert the gun. Now I don't know what colour it really is. You may see on the end of the gun here where it goes into the breech that I've given it a coat of really a brown rust style paint. There's no idea what the colour would actually be. I'm thinking that the gun would probably be primed before it went into the barrel, into the breech. It was all put together, and in service these guns could be changed if the barrel wore out. It wouldn't take many rounds to go down the barrel to wear them out, as in today's modern tanks. What we're going to look for now is some excuse me, some super glue. Now we're going to need quite a bit of this because this is we're going to use the metal barrel, obviously. It's a nice machined, aluminium machined barrel. There we are. And apply some super glue, some of the thicker, slower setting type glue to the end, and then we can put that. Let's see this bit happening. Yeah, that will go in there. And once that's in, really the idea, if you were thinking of it, of putting a round into the breech, it won't really go because the breech comes right to the end. What we could do, if you really want to display a round in the breech, is maybe slice the end off around and just put the end of it in the breech block down. Now then, here's the breech block. This is the one that I've given a coat of polished aluminium, the Humbrol style, and then just polished it up to make it nice and shiny. And it's a close fit, so it will sit in there without really any glue. Breech closed, ready to go, ready to fire. Right, now then, the gun mantlet on the outside, don't fit your muzzle brake before the mantlet goes on, as I've said, because it won't fit. There's only one way that will go around, and that will go in there like that. So let's put a touch of glue along here, and we're another step further. Try not to get glue into the parts that need to be free, otherwise we'll just glue everything up and we won't be able to elevate and depress the barrel. So that is beginning to look pretty good. There's just the breech, sorry, not the breech, the muzzle brake to go on the end. That'll be glued on the same way with some super glue. I won't build it, I won't put it on just yet because I want to make sure everything's set, everything's straight, and then we can put the muzzle brake on. Another thing that needs to go into the rear of the gun mantle is the coaxial machine gun. You'll see on here I have painted it. I've painted it black and weathered it up and chipped it like we did the first one. And then I've taken this piece the paint here off the barrel, because once it goes into the machine gun mount it won't actually go in. Once again, the tolerances are fairly tight, it won't go in with the paint on, but it will go in like that when it's stripped off. Right, I've a couple of little pieces yet to build. The basket's got to go on here as well. It sits on a couple of lugs underneath there, like that. Really looking good. So I'm going to let this bit dry, put the muzzle brake on, one or two more pieces to build, and to go on as well, and then we can look at doing the turret ring, finishing a little bit of detail around here, and then we can look about doing the turret platform. So there's still a little bit to go yet. We've got some more photo etch ammunition holders to build. These are optional. I think there's an option whether you want to actually fit those. I think we'll have a look at them and see what we can do. And then it's another, putting it all together, it's another step forward, and this thing is starting to become a tank. Alright, see you in a minute. Okay then, welcome back. Well, I've gone on and sort of finished and weathered the gun breech now, and I've also done the same on the interior of the turret. Yeah, it's just the same principle as following through from the earlier videos on the rest of the tank, giving it an oil wash. Particularly on the inside of the turret. If you come in and have, we'll talk about the breech in a minute. We'll come in and have a look at the turret. Hopefully, if we keep this in shot, we've got an oil wash and some streaks and grime and some post chipping on the turret itself, just in general areas of wear and tear. If you look around the door apertures, you can, as you quite rightly expect, there'll be a lot of wear of people coming and going, and munitions and stores coming through the hatches, so they're all chipped as well. The roof itself, there's the fume extractor there. It's obviously going to accumulate quite a bit of dirt going around it. There's the support for the sight optics, the gun optics here, and this little thing held up by the chain, I'm presuming it to be a breech lock, just that when the tank is in transit or travelling, they'd release this chain, drop it down and attach it just in here. If we could get it back in focus, just in there is a little attachment point for it, so it would hold the breech rather than it going up and down on its hydraulics or anything like that, and that's what that's for. I've also given the roof a little bit of a stain using the Abteilung 502, I can't find it, quite find it, engine oil. It gives it a yellowish sort of hue, which I think you would expect in a white sort of finish. You've got to think that there's all sorts of smoke and explosives inside this tank. There's a cordite from the shells itself, which are going to stain the area. Plus, as well, there wasn't the health and safety and the no smoking policy in public vehicles as there is now here in the UK. So the guys, if maybe the smokers, will be staining the inside of the tank a yellow. There'll be cigarette smokes and stuff going on like that, and it'd be sort of a grubby, grimy place. But it's just following the same principle as we've done before, and then some UMP washes. That's the light dirt, mixing it with some where is it, the dark dirt, and generally tying it all in so it matches up with the rest of the tank. Now to the breech. Here it is, same principle as the turret top, lots of washes, and tying it all together with the rest of the stuff. Bearing in mind we're keeping the breech and the breech block clean and shiny because they would all be cleaned. The bucket here, which would be to catch the spent rounds, would take a bit of battering, so as you see, if you can see in there, we've given it some washes, some chipping and such like that, and carried it all round to the rest of the breech itself. Now here's the optics that we spoke about. There's no colour call out for those. It's a bit unfortunate that this kit and the instructions are a little bit like that, but I've had a look around the internet and I found that the optics are often a painted green. I'm assuming that all the fixtures and fittings throughout the German armour were probably generally the same sort of fittings coming from the same place. So the colour of one in a Tiger tank of the same era, it's going to be a fair chance that it's going to be the same sort of colours for this tank as well. And there around the other side, that's my pointy stick, it's a lot easier then, is the machine gun. That's gone in there, and the spent cartridge bucket is in there. That's all gone, as you can see, poking out from the front here. And really it's all ready to fit into the turret itself now, so we'll drag that back across. We'll move some stuff out of the way, and there's a couple of fixing points. What I normally do is just clear some of the paint off where I'm going to apply the glue. It's really just something I do, whether or not you want to do it yourself. It just gives it that chance that the glue is going to grab to the plastic rather than the paint. Blow that away. I know that using your Tamiya extra thin or anything like that is really going to eat through the paint, but there's nothing like just making extra sure. There's a couple of fixing points that fix this turret, the gun mantle to the turret, and we just need to check that those go in there. Just checking the camera just to make sure that you can see this. Now inside here we talk about the support bracket. Can you see just in there? Where's a pointy stick? Smaller one so we can get in. Just in there, that optic support connects to a little lug just on top of the optics. So there's just a touch of glue to go in there if you can reach it. And you can see, maybe just in there how the breech lock would line up with the breech when it was in the right position. When it was elevated, that would drop down and lock into that hole there. Right, let's see if we can get this glued in here. Don't want to be applying too much pressure to it, we're getting quite fragile now. And just a simple matter of gluing it. Oops, it's in place. One good thing about the Tamiya extra thin is that if you apply too much, the extra will evaporate without taking the detail away from the rest of the fittings. Okay, it seems to have run that through there. What I'm going to do, I'll put this to one side, just a little bit, there has been some run down there, just down that side there. going to put this to one side and look at moving on to the rest of it. Well, that seems to have grabbed that. I'm going to let that set first, and then I'll go along and just touch up on the inside here, just where we cleared the paint off on the supports in here. I'll put some glue in them, just so it gives it some extra support, and lets that glue gives the breech and the whole gun mantle some extra support. I'm just making sure it's all fit right. We'll go in. Right, I'm going to leave that to go off one side, and then we'll go and have a look at some of the gun platform fittings. Oh, there we go. See you in 2 minutes. Okay, welcome back. Well, I've been away a little bit more longer than actually 2 minutes, but to you it's just a quick scene transition. But in the meantime, I've gone away and built the parts for the turret floor. It's really very easy to put them all together. I got a little bit carried away. I was thinking that maybe I should be showing you how all these pieces glue together, but they go together quite simply. Just a matter of following parts and gluing parts A to part B. It's as simple as that. The only thing I did think worthy of note is this bit. Come and have a look. It's this part here. It has a small piece of photo etch plate that goes on the back of this junction box. It's actually upside down. The instructions tell you where to glue it on, and I think it's an actual full-size picture. Yep, it's the diagram in the instructions is actually full size to show you where exactly to place this photo etch plate, because if it's not fitted correctly, this piece of conduit cable from the junction box needs to line, the end of this here needs to line up just in here with this cable protector that runs along the turret floor. Now I found a way to do this was to put the leg supports in there first, then glue the junction box to the plate. There is an actual outline on the photo etch part where the junction box fits, then to glue the cable onto the junction box so that the whole three parts are together, and then you can use the instructions as a guide, but this is what I found was a much easier way, was to glue with some super glue, glue the photo etch part to the support legs so that the cable lines up in the bottom, because otherwise if you glue it all on separately, the junction box could be too high or too low. If it's too low, it won't fit, and if it's too high, you're going to have that cable not meeting the protector that goes in the bottom. So that's the only point of note for building these parts. Zoom back out a bit so we can see a little bit more of the rest of the bits. The rest of it all fits together quite easily. That goes in there. There's the loader seat that fits in that piece. The commander's seat, That fits in there like that, and then it gives you an option. There's an option, a couple of options. I can't find the other part that's missing. It tells you that there's an option for this part to fit in here. I'm not quite sure what this is. I'm sure some of the panzer experts out there will probably know what these parts are, but that goes in there. Now if that part goes in, the ammunition carrier is the second option, and that won't fit, so we'll take that one off. And then it's just some photo etch part, really simple to build, which will go in there like that. Then there's this part, which is like a tube with a slidey uppy bit. Now I'm assuming that's part of the hydraulics for the elevation and depression of the main gun, because it goes up and down, and it matches a part that is in the turret top. So that goes on there. Now the rest of it hang on the turret ring. It will go together like this, so it will all hang like that. Then onto the turret ring, we'll take that off for it just for ease of clarity of this. We'll move that out of the way. Is this assembly here, which is all the gun traverse, the electric gun traverse, which makes the whole thing swing around on the tank, and that will fit in there somewhere. Yes, it does, because I know it does, because I've tried it. That will sit in there like that, and there's the big electric motor in here, which will swing everything around, plus the manual override, or just to take up those extra few millimeters of aim. They go there. There's another seat that hangs in the back there somewhere like this, and obviously the manual override for the gun traverse, that sits all in there. Now then, I would like to show you all this all going together. I'll go away and paint it and come back and show you all together, all seated in the top of the turret and ready to go on the tank. However, I can't go away and show you how to paint it because I've got no paint left. Come to have a look and get it all ready and do it for you, but unfortunately I have no paint. However, I am going to a model show this weekend. Hopefully I'll pick up some more, and then we can move on to the next stage. However, I won't let you down, because we're going, whilst we can put this to one side, we can work on some of the other details. Move them out of the way, and we can go off and have a look at some of the bits we've missed out from the previous build. Sorry, not the previous build, the earlier parts. We can look at some of the detail, and we can look at some of these tools. So I'll show you how, where's the kit, how to use some of the Ammo MiG tool colours and how to get your tools painted. So I'll go prepare for that, and I'll see you in a moment. Hi there, hello, welcome. Here we are. Here's some of the details that will go on the outside of the tank. Some of the tools, some of the tank tools. There's various bits and pieces included, such as the tank cleaning, the gun cleaning rods, which are those bits. There's a jack, such as that. What else have we got? We've got track tools, some spanners, some towing hooks, an axe, shovel. These are wire cutters, some levers and spanners and such. They're all going to be part of the details that will go on the outside of the tank and make it spring to life. In this scale they're quite separate, and that's why we've left them as such. We're going to paint them, and then, as I said a lot earlier on in the videos, that we'll paint the outside of the tank, camouflage it, and then we'll put the tools on so we can paint them all separately. I do appreciate that in some of the tanks in the field everything will have been covered in a camouflage colour, but I'm thinking that as it's come out of the factory it will have been painted in its overall factory finish, and then it'll have gone on to the next stage and they'll have strapped all the tools to it, so they won't necessarily be in the Dunkelgelb or whatever colour it came out of the factory. That's my opinion anyway. Other people might differ. Plus, as tools get lost, stolen, broken, they'll have been replaced. You may even see tanks with a different coloured camouflage sprayed over them from another tank that's been damaged, or spares have been sent out because you'd have stolen and pillaged anything you could if somebody else had something better than yours. Anyway, let's have a look at how we've done these. We've used the I've used the MiG ammo tool colour set. I got this from eModels, and in there is a set of 6. Let's move these bits out of the way so we can see what we're talking about, and I'll show you how to paint them all. Because the paints finish, I'm really quite impressed with them. Inside the box you get 6 individual bottles of acrylic colour, each with a shaker ball in them, and basically for those I've used the gunmetal for obviously the metal bits, and then a mixture of lights and light woods. There's old wood, new wood and light wood, giving you, they look about the same, but once the finishes are done they are quite different. There's 3 of them. There's a shadow rust, and also there's a red brown base, which are all quite useful colours. Anyway, how do we do them? First of all, I've given all the parts, here's the axe, I've given all the parts a base of acrylic black primer, and then I've just brushed everything, so I can find a brush. Got everything ready but the brush. Find the brush. I've just painted these in a size 0 round brush, which has gone on quite well. I've given them all a base coat in a black acrylic primer, as I've said, and then we've gone on to add the colours. So we'll bring in my paint palette, which for what I use for painting is just an old tea tray, a melamine tea tray, and a piece of acetate. You might do it different. You might use a proper paint palette, or some old bottle tops or something like that, or to mix your painting. I find that putting my paints in here as I use them, if there's any spillage it's just going to be contained in the old tea tray, but that's what I do anyway. So first part is to give the part that you're colouring a base coat of black. I find that this gives a better finish to the colours, particularly, I don't know if you can quite see this in the video, maybe the colours haven't come out. This one here is base coated in black, and this one here hasn't had any primer, black primer at all, and put the two together with the black primer, it does give it a deeper shade in the metallics. Anyway, that's that. So what we do then is give these a good shake, and really it's just a matter of painting them. We'll paint this one in new wood. We'll paint it in old wood. So give them a shake, and then just apply a touch to your paint palette, and then it's just a matter of painting them on. Just give it a coat. Even with the brush, don't paint them too thick, just give them a light wipe over and then let it dry and come back later. Only takes 10-20 minutes to dry. By the time you've started at one end of your tools and gone right through, the first ones will be finished. There, just, it's really a nice paint to brush. You can use it through the airbrush, but I was thinking that these parts are so small, and they're really easy to do. It's not really worth getting the airbrush out to paint them all, and it's quite therapeutic just to sit and give them a paint. Anyway, we'll carry on with that one. That's that one done. Or half done anyway, that's the first coat on. Clean the brush for the next part. And here's one I did earlier that's been nicely finished and ready for the next stage. What we'll do here is we'll look how the axe started off in this colour, and it's been toned down to give it a completely different colour. And I'll show you how to do that now. For what we use, so the next stage is find the right one. 43 is MiG 43, which is the shadow rust. Now then, what we do with this, we're only going to give this a wash. Now then, those of you who would probably go away and give this a coat of clear before you go on with the washes, yeah, you can do that if you want. But the pieces are only small. If you mess it up, it's not a big deal. You can just start again. But if you're happy with giving it a clear coat, yeah, give it a clear coat. What we're going to do with this is put once more a drop on the palette, and you'll see it's quite dark. Now, if we give it a, if we just coat it there with that, we're just going to paint it brown. So we're going to put some drops of water next to it on our palette. We will get there. And then feed the paint into the water. Now then, you can go ahead, let's see if you can pick this up. Let's come in and have a look. It's not really picking it up, but if you feed the paint, just drag it across the palette into the water, you will see, don't thoroughly mix it, you will see that the palette is now giving you a load excuse me, of differing shades in there. Don't mix it thoroughly, don't spur it all, swirl it all around. Just drag it out a bit and you'll see in there, it's not really coming through in the video, but once you try this at home it will work. Now then, we can use our brush to pick up varying shades in there. So we'll pick up some of the lighter shades and just wash it on, and then finding a piece of tissue, which I also haven't got prepared, is just touch it off. And you'll see there how it's darkening the paint, pick some more and just wash it. Just wash it off with some water or the tissue again, and it will flow. Oh, can't keep it in shot. Let's have a look. There we go. You already see there that as that's drying off, it's giving the wood a different look. Now then, we normally let this dry, but we're picking up some of the darker colour in the palette now, and we can add some streaks. I think this is going to be a little difficult. We can add the darker colours to add some streaks and to add some grain effect. It really works a lot better if we could let this dry. And you can work at it. If you don't like it while it's still wet, just wash it off and start again. See? If you don't like it, start again. Now then, this colour as well also works for the metallics. Now if you go out in the garden and you have a look at your shovel or your spade, or your shovel, spade, or your axe, there'll be maybe a touch of rust on them, but they wouldn't be overly rusty because you've used them. It's the same as the tank. You wouldn't have a lump of scrap iron sat on your tank if you're using it. Hands are rubbing along it, they'd be clearing the rust off. Yes, they'd be dark, but they wouldn't be lumps of rust. So we can take, here's the jack, which is fresh from the quartermaster stores, nice and shiny, and that's the finish that you would get from the gunmetal in this kit, nice and shiny like that. I'm going to weather this eventually. I may paint this in the Dunkelgelb the same as the tank, because if you went to your local motor store and bought a jack, you probably find it to be coloured in the factory, and I've just knocked a piece off it. Never mind, we'll glue that back on. So we can tone down this shiny finish just using the same wash. Yeah, you can probably see how the colours are separating now. So you can pick a lighter colour, or you can pick a darker colour just using the same palette, or you can find, just by dragging them across, mixing into them, you can find intermediate colours, and once again just washing it down to give it a rusty, but well, not rusty, I don't want to try to explain. You give it a shadowy look. There's an underlying rust to the metal part, but it's a smooth, clean, a smooth rust, and that is how I've treated these parts. We can bring them back in. It's as simple as that. It's quite a nice way to spend an evening, painting all these bits, getting them put on and ready for the end of the video. Right, speaking of the end of the video, that's the end of this one. As I say, I'm sorry, I did hope to get the rest of the turret finished and the turret floor put in, but we ran out of paint. But hopefully a little touch on weathering and painting the tools has been a bit of a bonus. There they are. So right, Time to go and edit this video now, and thanks for watching from Ted here at eModels, emodels.co.uk. Thanks for watching part 8. There's not a lot to do now. We've broke the back of this tank and we're getting on to the finishing stages. It'll soon be adding some paint. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you all again for part 9. Okay, bye.